October 8th of the Israeli and Palestinian territories map, also known as the Gaza-Israel conflict. Juzzy here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and practical approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in this region. As following the events of the Gaza Strip's Hamas militant group making some unprecedented military escalations into Israel yesterday, the early hours and the early days of the fog of war continues. And I do mean war, as clearly stated or defined by Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, yesterday. Now, straight up, just to recap, Israel has been dealing with a surprise coordinated attack as Hamas fired thousands of artillery rockets and other ordnance in the opening hours yesterday. All whilst Hamas ground militants conducted simultaneous ground surprise incursions, entering into no less than 15 Israeli settlements at various locations just outside of the Gaza Strip itself. For instance, on the ground, street fighting and Hamas insurgency forces were found to be located at Israeli locations such as Ashkelon, Erez, Sderot, and notably Rime as well. Then add to that, the Palestinian terrorizing group launched another volley of rockets against Israel from Gaza as well again today. And the Hamas militant group's rockets have also been firing at one of Israel's largest cities of Tel Aviv. Now, Tel Aviv itself is a major city along the country's coastline and is known for its high-tech industry, nightlife, and beaches. Now, as for Hamas operations, they have themselves been seen kidnapping Israeli civilians, including women and children, and the elderly, bringing them in fact back to Gaza as hostages. And there is already now a lot of footage to support these claims. But one other notable instance was 30-year-old Shani Locke, a German citizen who died as a result now shortly after capture, and whose body was seen on video in the back of a pickup truck driven by some of the terrorizing Hamas units. Which does also feel particularly heinous given that she traveled from Germany to Israel to a music festival within Israel held for peace, and that festival of which was quite close to the Gaza border fence. And we already have too many examples of very untoward Hamas engagements with Israeli civilians, including the firing on civilians in cars near to the border just indiscriminately. Then also including a group of Hamas militants, even kidnapping an elderly Israeli woman and parading her around all the way back in Gaza, which just appears to be absolute savagery just put on display. Now, the IDF, or the Israeli Defense Forces, of which are quite a modernized military, have responded to these initial outbreaks and conducted multiple airstrikes within the Gaza Strip itself, taking aim at known key Hamas positions, including the Islamic National Bank of Gaza, which is linked to and is claimed to provide funding for Hamas, which is now being destroyed today by an Israeli airstrike. And these airstrikes are likely to continue for quite some time, as Israel may make the decision to later perform a ground-based counterattack or incursion into Gaza itself. Oh, and also the Israeli army that is stationed along the border with Lebanon, so this is to the north of the country of Israel, has received an order placing it in a state of maximum combat readiness. And I may need to zoom out further. That is a little bit further north. So there we go. We've got Lebanon up the top there. Now, some Hamas militant units that infiltrated Israeli towns near the Gaza border, such as Sderot, and I'll just zoom in. So here we are, this location here, have since had to deal with Israeli Merkava Mark IV tanks deployed for clearing operations. Whilst other Israeli locations along the border, such as Rime, have reportedly now already been cleared of the Hamas units. And we've already seen with the Israeli Defense Forces actions that a very long line of Israeli tanks is heading south to the border with Gaza. It's probably already there as we speak. So it would very much appear that the start of a ground invasion of Gaza is just a matter of time. And on top of that, the IDF, so again, the Israeli Defense Forces, have issued specific instructions for residents in 7 areas of the Gaza Strip to evacuate to predetermined points. And targeted text messages have also been outgoing. Then on to the political level of these engagements. So the Israeli Security Council has reportedly already approved a ground operation in the Gaza Strip, which in fact approved the destruction of the military and government capabilities of Hamas. Then, Prime Minister Netanyahu, in a call with US President Biden, said that the country faces a long campaign, but they will emerge victorious. Also, in words of strength by the Israeli Defense Minister, as he said, quote, "We will change reality on the ground in Gaza for the next 50 years. What was before will be no more. We will operate at full force." Which is all very much obviously a very strong stance from the Israeli side. Now, interestingly, in terms of energy consumption, the Gaza Strip receives 63% of its electricity from Israel, then just 14% from Egypt, which is just south of Gaza, and roughly 20% is self-generated. And this is important because Israel has just started or stated that it will cut off those energy outflows to Gaza now in what was considered somewhat of an expected retaliatory move. Then, as for mobilization, Israel has already called up reservists reserve mobilizations, which it will likely see about 500,000 soon to be actively deployed, well, sooner or later, from the roughly 150,000 active personnel within the Israeli military. Now, as for some international responses, well, the USA, their response was such that it will support Israel and that Israel has every right to defend itself, with Biden stating that Israel has the USA's unwavering support. Also, Germany showed solidarity with Israel as the Brandenburg Gate was lit up with the Israeli flag tonight. Now, as for some other information, Hamas militants are not exactly your conventional armed forces, at least many of them are not. For instance, as you can see here, many without armor, many just wearing t-shirts. And then, as for some additional stats, the amount of the military personnel that Israel can theoretically somewhat quickly mobilize is actually roughly equal in size to the entire Gaza Strip general population. But as the hours and days proceed, it still does certainly remain to be seen what the immediate follow-up events to this very fluid situation on the ground will look like. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Cheers.